The battery systems and the charging systems that they've built are top in class, and here the company's reputation is just being destroyed by Elon Musk.
Tesla just got humiliated. China's BYD is wiping the floor with Elon Musk's company, outselling Tesla, crushing prices, and expanding at an unstoppable pace. And here's the worst part. BYD isn't just beating Tesla, it's rewriting the rules of the EV game. While Musk scrambles to cut prices, China's automakers are flooding the market with cheaper, smarter electric vehicles. If Tesla can't fight back, we could be witnessing the biggest fall from grace in EV history. But how did China pull this off? And can Tesla even survive? It all starts with a hidden loophole, one that allows Chinese EVs to flood the US market while bypassing massive tariffs. And it's already changing everything. China's secret backdoor into the US. In an effort to protect American automakers, the U.S. imposed a 25% tariff on Chinese-made electric vehicles, making them significantly more expensive for American buyers. The goal was simple: make it unprofitable for Chinese automakers to sell their cars in the U.S. and protect Tesla, Ford, General Motors, and other domestic manufacturers from foreign competition. But China is always one step ahead. Instead of backing down, Chinese automakers found a loophole that allows them to flood the U.S. market with their EVs while avoiding these heavy tariffs. The key to their strategy? Thanks to the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, vehicles built in Mexico can enter the United States tariff-free, as long as they meet specific North American content requirements. This trade agreement was designed to strengthen manufacturing in North America and encourage regional economic integration. But China saw an opportunity. Instead of shipping cars directly from China to the U.S., where they would be hit with massive import duties, Chinese automakers are now building factories in Mexico. By doing this, Chinese brands like BYD, Chery, and Great Wall Motors can manufacture their vehicles in Mexico and legally sell them in the U.S. without paying the 25% tariff. They are essentially bypassing the trade restrictions that were meant to block them. This loophole allows China to expand its EV market share in the United States without ever having to deal with direct trade barriers. And the most shocking part, it is completely legal. And this strategy is already having massive consequences, not just for Tesla, but for the entire American auto industry. The Mexico loophole, America's biggest mistake. The strategy is already working in China's favor. Mexico has now surpassed China as the United States' largest trading partner, marking a historic shift in global trade. This change is not just about cars. It is a massive realignment of economic power that could have long-term consequences for American industry. Chinese automakers aren't just setting up shop in Mexico. They are aggressively expanding. Companies like BYD, the world's top EV maker, have already invested hundreds of millions of dollars into new production facilities. Chery and Great Wall Motors are following suit, quickly building factories and establishing supply chains in Mexico. This move makes it nearly impossible for the U.S. to block Chinese EVs. Even if Washington attempts to impose new restrictions, the cars coming from Mexico are not technically Chinese imports anymore. They are Mexican-made vehicles. This distinction is critical because, under the USMCA, the United States cannot simply ban Mexican-made cars without violating the trade agreement. For the American auto industry, this is a nightmare scenario. Tesla, Ford, and General Motors are already struggling to compete with lower-cost Chinese EVs. If China's biggest automakers gain an even stronger foothold in the North American market, it could crush the already struggling U.S. auto sector. If Washington does not act soon, China could dominate the American EV market without ever having to officially enter it. The Biden administration has already expressed concern over China's growing presence in Mexico, but there is no easy solution. If the U.S. moves to block Chinese brands from benefiting from the USMCA, it risks triggering a trade war with both Mexico and China. And if it does nothing, American automakers will be forced into an all-out price war against some of the most cost-efficient car companies in the world. And that brings us to Tesla, the company that once dominated the EV industry, but now finds itself fighting for survival against China's unstoppable momentum. How China mastered EVs faster than Tesla. Unlike American automakers, which struggled with supply chain issues and high production costs, China built an entire ecosystem designed for rapid and cost-effective EV manufacturing. One of the biggest reasons for China's success is its tight control over the EV supply chain. The country dominates the global battery industry, with 75% of all lithium-ion batteries produced in China. This means Chinese automakers do not have to rely on expensive foreign suppliers for batteries, giving them a massive cost advantage over Tesla. Another major factor is China's ability to mass-produce vehicles at an unprecedented scale. Chinese car manufacturers use advanced automation, government-funded factories, and cheaper labor to drive down costs. Unlike Tesla, which still struggles with production bottlenecks and supply chain disruptions, Chinese companies have streamlined their assembly lines to build cars faster and cheaper than anyone else. The result? Chinese electric vehicles cost nearly 50% less than Tesla's models. A Tesla Model Y starts at $45,000, while some Chinese EVs with similar range and technology are priced below $20,000. That is a game-changing price difference, one that could force Tesla into a corner it may not escape from, and Tesla knows it. That is why Elon Musk has been forced into making a desperate move, slashing prices repeatedly just to keep up. Tesla's price slashes. Tesla's response to China's growing dominance has been drastic price cuts. Musk knows that if Tesla wants to stay competitive, it has to lower its prices. But this strategy comes with serious risks. Since early 2023, Tesla has been slashing prices on its most popular models, including the Model Y and Model 3. While this has helped increase demand, it has also eaten into Tesla's profits, making it harder to sustain long-term growth. The problem for Tesla is that Chinese automakers have an even greater ability to drop prices. Unlike Tesla, which relies on external battery suppliers and higher production costs, Chinese companies control their entire manufacturing process, from batteries to final assembly. This means they can lower prices even further without sacrificing as much profit. Another major challenge for Tesla is that China's EV market is evolving faster than Tesla can keep up. New Chinese brands like XPeng, NIO, and BYD are producing smarter, AI-powered electric vehicles that rival Tesla's own technology. Some of these cars feature autonomous driving capabilities that are nearly as advanced as Tesla's autopilot at half the cost. If this trend continues, Tesla may not be able to survive a prolonged price war. Cutting prices can only go so far before it starts damaging Tesla's financial health. Meanwhile, China's government-backed automakers have the resources to keep lowering prices for years, making it nearly impossible for Tesla to compete on cost alone. But how did China manage to outmaneuver Tesla and the United States so quickly? And more importantly, can Tesla fight back, or has it already lost? The EV battery war. The most critical component of an electric vehicle is its battery. Without a battery, an EV is just a shell. And this is where China holds an overwhelming advantage. Right now, 75% of the world's EV batteries are made in China. No other country even comes close. Tesla may be the most well-known EV brand, but even Tesla relies on Chinese battery suppliers to power its cars. The two biggest battery makers in the world, Contemporary Amperex Technology Limited and BYD, are both Chinese companies, and they supply batteries not just to Tesla, but also to Volkswagen, BMW, Ford, and nearly every major car manufacturer. This means that even when Tesla sells an American-made vehicle, there is a high chance that the battery inside came from China. Unlike the United States, China built a massive battery production network before demand exploded. Years ago, the Chinese government made a strategic decision to invest billions into battery technology, ensuring that its companies would dominate the supply chain. They secured the raw materials, built state-of-the-art factories, and developed advanced battery chemistry, all while the United States lagged behind. Because China controls the production of key battery materials like lithium, cobalt, and nickel, they have also created a supply chain that is difficult to disrupt. Even if the United States wants to break free from China's grip, it will take years to build the necessary infrastructure. In the meantime, Chinese battery companies continue to scale production at an unprecedented rate, making it nearly impossible for competitors to catch up. But China's advantage is not just in battery production, it is also in the way its automakers have structured their businesses. One company in particular has completely changed the game: how China beat Tesla at its own game. BYD is no ordinary car company. It did not start as a traditional automaker. It began as a battery manufacturer. In fact, before it ever made a single car, BYD was one of the world's largest producers of rechargeable batteries for cell phones and laptops. This gave BYD an advantage that Tesla could never match. Unlike Tesla, which buys batteries from suppliers, BYD makes its own batteries in-house. This allows BYD to control costs, streamline production, and avoid supply chain disruptions. Tesla, on the other hand, is still dependent on third-party suppliers like CATL, Panasonic, and LG Energy Solution. Because of this vertical integration, BYD is now producing high-performance EVs for under $20,000, something that Tesla simply cannot do. While the cheapest Tesla, the Model 3, starts at nearly $40,000, BYD is selling fully electric vehicles for half that price, while still making a profit. BYD's cost advantage is not just about batteries, it is also about efficiency. Chinese automakers have mastered the art of low-cost, high-volume production. They use advanced automation, streamlined supply chains, and aggressive pricing strategies to undercut Tesla and other Western automakers. The result? BYD has now surpassed Tesla in global EV sales. In 2023, BYD officially became the world's top-selling EV brand, delivering more cars than Tesla for the first time in history. But price is not the only area where China is winning. Their EVs are not just cheaper, they are smarter, and that is where Tesla's biggest challenge lies: the smart car revolution. When people think of smart cars, they think of Tesla. Autopilot, full self-driving, AI-powered navigation. These were supposed to be Tesla's biggest advantages. But now, China is taking those same ideas and perfecting them. Chinese automakers XPeng and NIO are leading the charge in self-driving technology, and their AI-powered driving systems are beginning to rival Tesla's autopilot. XPeng, for example, has developed a feature called XNGP, which allows for fully autonomous city driving, something Tesla has struggled to implement. While Tesla has been fine-tuning its self-driving capabilities for years, China has one major advantage: data. The more miles an AI system drives, the better it gets. But here is the problem: China refuses to share driving data with Tesla. Tesla has been locked out of collecting data from China's massive EV market, while Chinese automakers have access to billions of miles of real-world driving data. This gives them an enormous advantage in training their AI models, allowing them to develop self-driving systems that could surpass Tesla's in a matter of years. If Tesla cannot regain the lead in self-driving technology, it may lose one of its biggest selling points. And if Chinese automakers enter the US market, they could quickly dominate the smart EV space, leaving Tesla behind. Tesla's last remaining advantage has been its supercharger network, but even that may not be enough to hold back the Chinese EV invasion. Why Tesla's charging network may not be enough. For years, Tesla's supercharger network was seen as the company's biggest advantage. No other automaker had a fast charging system that could match it. Tesla's network made long-distance travel easy, eliminating one of the biggest concerns about EV ownership. But now China is building more chargers at a record pace. The United States still has far fewer charging stations than China, and the gap is widening every year. China already has the world's largest EV infrastructure, with over 2 million public chargers installed, more than 10 times the number in the United States. While Tesla is still expanding its supercharger network, China's government is funding nationwide charging initiatives, making it easier than ever for Chinese EVs to operate without range anxiety. And here is the biggest threat: if Chinese automakers flood the US market, they might build their own charging networks. Imagine a future where BYD, XPeng, and NIO set up their own charging stations across North America, cutting into Tesla's supercharger dominance. If that happens, Tesla will no longer have a monopoly on fast charging, and its biggest infrastructure advantage could disappear overnight. With every part of the EV industry under its control, China is forcing the United States and Tesla into a difficult position. Can they fight back, or is it already too late? The US fights back. Will tariffs save Tesla? Back in 2018, the United States imposed a 25% tariff on Chinese-made cars, effectively cutting off China's direct access to the American market. The move was intended to protect companies like Tesla, Ford, and General Motors from the unfair advantage that Chinese manufacturers gained through government subsidies. However, that tariff was only a temporary barrier. China has now found ways to work around it, and its electric vehicle industry is stronger than ever. Now, Washington is considering even higher tariffs, aiming to make it nearly impossible for Chinese automakers to compete in the US market. But there is a massive problem. The entire American auto industry depends on China for critical parts. Many of the components that go into Tesla, Ford, and General Motors vehicles, including batteries, microchips, and rare earth minerals, still come from Chinese suppliers. If the United States raises tariffs too aggressively, it could disrupt supply chains, drive up costs for American automakers, and ultimately hurt domestic car production instead of helping it. The real question is whether these tariffs will actually protect Tesla and other American brands, or simply push China to double down on its expansion into Mexico, a move that would allow Chinese companies to avoid U.S. trade restrictions entirely. At this stage, the United States is stuck in a dilemma. If it does nothing, China will take over the market. But if it acts too aggressively, it could damage its own auto industry in the process. But while Washington debates its next move, Europe is launching its own battle against China's growing influence. Europe joins the battle. While the United States has been focused on tariffs and trade wars, Europe has been quietly facing its own electric vehicle crisis. Chinese automakers have flooded the European market, and the numbers are staggering. 1 in 5 EVs sold in Europe is now made in China. If this trend continues, European automakers like Volkswagen, BMW, and Renault could be wiped out by Chinese competitors. The European Union is now launching an investigation into China's unfair subsidies, a move that could result in huge tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles. European officials argue that China's government is giving billions in financial support to its domestic automakers, allowing them to sell cars below market value and destroy foreign competition. If the investigation finds that China is guilty of trade violations, the European Union could impose tariffs as high as 20% on Chinese electric vehicles. At the same time, France and Germany are investing billions into domestic battery production, hoping to reduce their reliance on Chinese supply chains. European automakers are also developing their own budget EVs to compete with the flood of low-cost Chinese cars. However, even with these efforts, the challenge remains. Chinese electric vehicles are still significantly cheaper, and European automakers are struggling to match China's aggressive pricing. The reality is that Europe's response is still years behind China's expansion. If the European Union cannot act quickly, it may lose its ability to compete entirely. But while Europe struggles to hold its ground, a new front in the EV war is opening up, one that could decide the entire future of the American auto industry. The Mexican standoff. The most unexpected battleground in this global trade war is Mexico. While the United States has tried to block Chinese electric vehicles through tariffs, China has found a backdoor, and it leads straight through America's southern neighbor. Chinese automakers are building massive factories in Mexico, taking advantage of the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement to gain tariff-free access to the American market. This loophole is allowing Chinese companies to avoid direct trade restrictions and sell their cars in the United States as Mexican-made vehicles. Now, U.S. lawmakers are considering a drastic move, imposing tariffs on all Mexican-made cars, regardless of their country of origin. This would effectively shut down China's backdoor strategy, but would also hurt American automakers, who also rely on Mexico for production. If the United States moves forward with this, it could trigger a major trade war with Mexico and China, further complicating an already unstable global economy. The situation is escalating quickly, and at this point, it is no longer just about Tesla or China. This is about control over the entire future of the auto industry. The global EV war is reaching its climax. But can Tesla and the US actually survive? Or is China already too far ahead? Has Tesla already lost? Elon Musk revolutionized the market, turning electric cars from a niche product into a global phenomenon. The Tesla Model S set new standards for range, performance, and technology. And the Model 3 and Model Y quickly became some of the best-selling vehicles worldwide. But today, Tesla is no longer the undisputed leader. In 2023, something historic happened. BYD, the Chinese electric vehicle giant, outsold Tesla for the first time ever. This milestone was not just a symbolic loss for Tesla, it was a signal that the global electric vehicle market had officially shifted. Tesla's biggest challenge is no longer demand, it is cost. Chinese automakers, led by BYD, have achieved something Tesla has struggled with for years: scaling up production while keeping prices low. BYD's vertically integrated supply chain, its dominance in battery production, and government-backed subsidies have allowed it to manufacture electric vehicles for significantly less than Tesla. The result? BYD is now selling high-quality electric vehicles at nearly half the price of Tesla's cars. In contrast, Tesla has been forced into multiple rounds of price cuts just to stay competitive, a move that has slashed profit margins and raised concerns among investors. The key issue for Tesla is that it is losing control of the market's pricing power. A price war with China is a battle that Tesla cannot win in the long run. Chinese companies have built a cost structure that allows them to absorb lower profits, while Tesla still relies on a pricing model that assumes premium margins. The only way for Tesla to maintain its dominance is through innovation, something Elon Musk has always emphasized. But the reality is that time is running out. Tesla has been promising a next-generation, low-cost electric vehicle for years, but it has yet to materialize. Meanwhile, BYD, XPeng, and NIO are rapidly advancing their technology, launching new models with cutting-edge autonomous driving features and battery innovations. Tesla's position in the market is also being challenged from another angle: government policy. While the United States has imposed tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles to protect domestic manufacturers, it has not been enough to stop China's expansion. BYD and other Chinese automakers have already set up production hubs in Mexico, allowing them to bypass tariffs and flood the U.S. market with low-cost electric vehicles. If Tesla cannot respond with a truly affordable, competitive vehicle, it risks being overtaken not just in China, but on American soil as well. If Tesla continues losing market share and struggles to maintain profitability, it faces a future where it could become just another struggling automaker. Unlike legacy car companies, Tesla does not have decades of experience surviving market downturns. Its stock value is built on the perception that it is a high-growth tech company, not just another car manufacturer. If that perception shifts, Tesla's valuation could collapse overnight. The question is no longer whether Tesla is a leader in electric vehicles. The real question is whether it can survive the next phase of the industry's evolution. But Tesla's future isn't just about its own survival. The fate of the U.S. electric vehicle industry depends on whether America can break free from China's dominance in battery production. America's last hope: breaking China's monopoly. The United States relied on China for cheap manufacturing, assuming that domestic companies like Tesla would always maintain a technological edge. But as China has proven, it is not just a factory for American innovation. It is now leading the way in electric vehicle technology itself. The harsh truth is that the U.S. does not control its own supply chain for electric vehicles. China dominates everything from battery production to lithium refining, cobalt mining, and raw material processing. Without access to these resources, the U.S. cannot compete in the global electric vehicle market. Recognizing the danger of this dependency, the U.S. government has poured billions of dollars into rebuilding domestic battery production. The Inflation Reduction Act, passed in 2022, is one of the largest investments in American clean energy manufacturing, providing over $30 billion in subsidies for battery production, raw material processing, and electric vehicle assembly. Automakers like Tesla, General Motors, and Ford are now building massive battery factories in Texas, Nevada, and Michigan, aiming to reduce reliance on China. However, the reality is that China is still years ahead. Even if the U.S. dramatically expands its battery manufacturing capabilities, it still does not control the supply of critical minerals like lithium, cobalt, and nickel. Right now, 75% of the world's lithium refining happens in China, and 80% of cobalt processing is controlled by Chinese companies. Even American lithium mines, like those in Nevada and North Carolina, still rely on China for refining and processing. Without a solution to this bottleneck, the U.S. will remain dependent on China for the most critical part of an electric vehicle: the battery. The Biden administration has attempted to secure alternative supply chains by forming agreements with Australia, Canada, and South American countries to source lithium and other minerals outside of China. But these efforts are moving too slowly. Battery technology evolves at an exponential rate, and China's automakers are not waiting. If the U.S. cannot quickly establish its own supply network, it risks being left behind, not just in electric vehicles, but in the broader clean energy economy. The only hope for America is to accelerate innovation faster than China can expand production. If Tesla and other U.S. automakers can develop new battery technology, such as solid-state batteries or alternative materials that do not rely on Chinese-controlled minerals, they might have a chance to break free from China's grip. But without a technological breakthrough, the U.S. electric vehicle industry could become permanently dependent on China, just like it is for consumer electronics, solar panels, and rare earth minerals. So, is the EV war already over? Or does Tesla and the U.S. still have a fighting chance? Who wins the EV war? At this moment, Tesla and the US are fighting back, but China's lead is massive. While Tesla is working on its next-generation Model 2, Chinese automakers are already flooding global markets with low-cost electric vehicles. While the US is investing in battery production, China already owns the entire supply chain. Elon Musk has always defied expectations, but this may be his toughest battle yet. Tesla's future depends on whether it can innovate fast enough to counter China's cost advantage. If the Model 2 succeeds, Tesla might still have a chance. But if China continues its rapid expansion, Tesla may never recover. The final question remains: has China already won the battle for the future of electric vehicles? Or does Tesla still have one last move to make? What do you think? Will Tesla survive, or is China now unstoppable? Let me know in the comments.